You're watching the Knox Pages.
You are watching the Knox Pages.
You're watching the Knox Pages Game of the Week.
Welcome, folks, to this week's edition of the Knox Pages Game of the Week. My name is Grant Pepper. I'm a reporter at KnoxPages.com. It's Week 8. We got 3 weeks left in the regular season, and a lot of big high school football matchups this week as we head down the stretch in Knox County. None bigger, though, than our Game of the Week this week. It's a matchup between two teams that are knotted even in the middle of the Knox-Morrow Athletic Conference. One of those teams still has realistic playoff aspirations as we head into Week 8. It's Centerburg at Danville, right out here at Tough Street Stadium in Danville, Ohio on Friday night. We will get to that game in a little bit, but first, let's take you around the county for what happened last week in Knox County High School football. In Week 7, in our Game of the Week last week, Northmore took down East Knox 15-14 in Howard. It was an all-time classic, a great game there between the Golden Knights and the Bulldogs. Northmore comes out on top after a last-minute score, and they will move to 7-0. East Knox drops to 6-1. Northmore at first place in the conference right now, tied with Highland. East Knox is now 1 game back. Last week, Highland took down Fredericktown 44-7 in a game that was never close. Scots won their 6th straight after leading 30-0 after 1 quarter of play. Danville beat Carrington Lincoln last week 27-14, another steady win for the Blue Devils, who won their 2nd straight after beginning the season 0-5. Worcester beat Mount Vernon last weekend. Yellow Jackets dropped their 4th straight, this time on homecoming night at Energy Field. And Centerburg defeated Mount Gilead 26-18. The Trojans escaped with a win over 0-7 Mount Gilead on the road. Now let's get you updated on the standings for the Knox-Morrow Athletic Conference and Ohio Cardinal Conference heading into Week 8. Starting in the KMAC, Northmore and Highland still tied for first place at 4-0 in the conference. Northmore 7-0 overall, Highland at 6-1. Those two teams will go head-to-head in Marengo in Week 10. East Knox 1 game back right now in 3rd place at 3-1 in the conference, 6-1 overall. Centerburg and Danville, our Game of the Week matchup. Those two teams are tied for 4th at 2-2 in the conference. Centerburg at 4-3 overall, Danville 2-5 after that 0-5 start. Fredericktown's currently 6th in the KMAC at 1-3 in the conference, 1-6 overall. And in the cellar, Carrington Lincoln and Mount Gilead are both tied for 7th at 0-4 in the conference and 0-7 overall. Meanwhile, in the Ohio Cardinal Conference, Worcester has taken sole possession of first place at 4-0 in conference play, 5-2 overall. Lexington's in second, 3-1 in the conference, just 3-4 overall after that big upset win over West Holmes last week. Ashland is 2-1 in the conference, 5-2 overall. West Holmes, after that loss, is 2-2 in the conference, 5-2 overall, and 4th place in the OCC. In 5th, Mansfield Senior 1-2 now in the conference after upsetting Ashland last week. They're 3-4 overall, and Mount Vernon and Madison are tied for 6th in the cellar at 0-3 in OCC play. Mount Vernon 2-5 overall, Madison 1-6. Those two schools will go head-to-head this week in Mansfield. And that sets us up nicely for this week's Knox Pages Game of the Week. It's a matchup between two old Knox County foes who are in their 99th matchup against each other on Friday night. It's Centerburg at Danville right out here at Tough Street Stadium. Centerburg comes in at 4-3 after squeaking by winless Mount Gilead last week, 26-18. But the win snapped a 2-game losing streak for the Trojans and also served as running back Donnell Marshall's return in the process. Marshall, arguably the team's most dynamic backfield playmaker, was forced to sit out several weeks with an injury. This week he's back and even healthier, which is a welcome sign for Coach Andy Colella and the Trojans.
He brings a totally different element on offense. He gives us a big play threat carrying the football. We used him a little bit this past Friday, so it was nice to have that back. He had some nice runs for us. He'll be even healthier this week, so that'll be key. And then on defense, he's our back end guy back there. So he has the speed to cover some range back there. So this week is perfect for him to be able to come back and play consistently every day.
Now, despite having already doubled their win total from last season, Coach Colella said the Trojans are looking to improve in several aspects down the stretch.
Defensively, just constantly harping on effort. We've done really well at creating turnovers this year. I think we're up around 20, somewhere there. So those are all created off of effort type things. And we need to clean up some things in the pass defense, and obviously that'll be challenged on Friday. Offensively, we're getting healthier on both sides of the ball, actually, and that's going to help. And, offensively, just continuing to figure out, some things week by week, and just evolving with those guys as well. There's still some young guys over there, so just continually week by week, maybe adding some new things and trying some different things that we haven't been able to previously do.
The Trojans will face a Danville team on Friday night that began the season 0-5. However, those 5 teams currently have a combined record of 31-3. All 5 are likely playoff bound heading into Week 8, and 2 of those teams are still undefeated. Since Week 5, Danville has won 2 straight, and Coach Andy Colella said that given the team's history of success and their strength of schedule this season, his Trojans surely won't be overlooking the Blue Devils for their 2-5 record on Friday night.
Man, I tell you what, their record is very deceiving. I think the 5 games that they lost, the teams that they played have unbelievable records. Just the tradition and Coach Honnenberger up there, man, he does an absolutely awesome job. It's one of the best tradition programs around this area, for sure, if not the entire state. So, these kids are going to be tough. They're going to be hungry, ready to go. They've won 2 games in a row. They're playing at home, and if they continue to win some games, they'll be looking all right, towards the end of the season. So, I think he's got things turned around there, and but hopefully that doesn't work out for him this Friday.
Centerburg linebacker Steven Schmidt told me this week that stopping Danville's passing attack will be crucial for his team's success on Friday night. Over the last 2 weeks, Danville quarterback Dalton David has thrown for 328 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions, leading a balanced Blue Devil offense.
Really just trying to control the ball up front, eliminating their run game, and then trying to make them throw. I mean, we got to work on our coverages, like our last 2 games. Like, we gave up a lot of yards through air, so if we stop that, I have full faith that our guys at D-line will be able to stop the run.
Coach Andy Colella gave me 2 major keys for his Centerburg team on Friday night. 1 on defense is stopping Danville's big play offense, and 2 on the offensive side of the ball, making sure they establish their own balanced attack early and often.
I think just continuing to get better. Obviously we have to slow down their big plays on offense. That's key back there. Offensively for us, we've got to be able to establish the run and also be able to throw it. That's been hurting us a little bit. And they got some active guys on defense up front. Their 2 safeties are active as ever. So we've got to counteract that and be able to convert first downs and move the ball down the field and all those basic things that you got to do week in and week out.
Steven Schmidt told me he expects a rowdy atmosphere out here at Tough Street Stadium on Friday night, and he expects his team to assert their dominance early on against the Blue Devils.
I definitely feel like they're going to walk in this like they can win it, and we just have to shut that down right away. They have a really good atmosphere down there, really good football community, and as long as we just fire out and just keep dominating all 4 quarters, and I have full faith that we can do that.
Meanwhile, out here in Danville, the Blue Devils are looking to keep their momentum rolling after 2 straight wins against Fredericktown in Week 6 and last week against Carrington-Lincoln. Even though the Blue Devils are just 2-5, they could potentially still make the playoffs in their region if they win out. They're currently ranked 15th according to OHSAA computer ratings in Division 7, Region 27, and they still have East Knox on the schedule, which could seriously boost their playoff ratings in Week 10. Despite the 0-5 start to the season, the energy is positive out here on Tough Street right now, as there seems to be a renewed sense of urgency here in the second half of the season for the Blue Devils, who seem to have weathered the storm.
Well, right now, we definitely want to get in the playoffs. We're busting our butts the past few weeks to get to that point. So.
Now, along with playing a less daunting schedule over the last 2 weeks, Danville head coach Ed Honnenberger told me that his team has improved in certain aspects of its game all season long, and that now it's starting to show.
I think our running attack has gotten better through the course of the year, and just the familiarity with the kids with each other and knowing their roles right now.
While Centerburg got Donnell Marshall back last week, 2 weeks ago Danville welcomed back their key backfield playmaker and running back Chris Greenawalt, who sat out Week 5 and some of Week 6 with an injury. Coach Ed Honnenberger told me that having Greenawalt back in the lineup has paid dividends for his young Blue Devils over the last 2 weeks.
He's a physical runner, and he can get tough yards when maybe the hole's not there. So when that game and a half that he missed, we sort of lacked that. He's 210 pounds, and he can plow his own way at times when there's no hole. So we don't really have our other kids are more speed kids, and they have different qualities than what he has.
Coach Ed Honneberger told me this week that on film, Centerburg appears to be a confident team that's executed at multiple levels offensively so far this season and should pose as a challenge for his Blue Devils on Friday night. The Trojans are led by playmakers such as dual-threat quarterback John Shisby, a sophomore who's thrown for over 400 yards and ran for over 600 more so far this season, leading the Trojans in both categories.
Well coached. They're young, but they've got 4 wins, so they got some confidence. They like to run the football and control high percentage passing game.
Much like Colella, Honneberger told me that one major key for his team this week will be eliminating Centerburg's big play offense. If the Trojans are going to score, they're going to have to earn it.
We need to have long sustained drives, eat up clock, play good defense, not give them a big play. If they earn it, they need to get a 10-play drive and score, not break a 70-yard run or anything like that.
Centerburg and Danville square off in our Knox Pages Game of the Week right out here at Tough Street Stadium on Friday night. Should be a great matchup between two teams tied in the middle of the Knox Marl Athletic Conference. Kickoff will be at 7 p.m. And make sure to get to our website later that night for our game recap. That's knoxpages.com following Friday night's game. All right, now let's take you around the county for the rest of this week's high school football matchups. In Week 8, of course, our game of the week, Centerburg at Danville. Centerburg coming in at 4-3, Danville 2-5 on the season. That's a 7 p.m. kickoff in our Knox Pages Game of the Week. East Knox coming off that loss to Northmore at 6-1. They go to Fredericktown this week. It was 1-6. Mount Verden's going to try to get off the shy and snap that losing streak this week at Mansfield-Madison. Mount Verden 2-5 coming in that game. Madison 1-6. Both teams are tied at the bottom of the OCC currently. Mount Gilead heads to Northmore this week. Mount Gilead 0-7. Northmore at 7-0. That's a 7 p.m. kickoff. And Highland will go to Cardington to face Cardington-Lincoln on Friday night. Highland at 6-1. Cardington-Lincoln at 0-7 heading into Week 8. Well, folks, that's going to do it for this week's edition of the Knox Pages Game of the Week. Thanks for watching. Make sure to follow our sports coverage all season long at our website, knoxpages.com. And follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Knox Pages for live game updates, game recaps, features, and more. That's at Knox Pages on Facebook and Twitter. Again, I'm Grant Pepper, a reporter at knoxpages.com. Thank you for tuning in to this week's edition of the Knox Pages Game of the Week. Go enjoy Week 8, and we'll see you next week.